Hey, everybody, welcome to the Enhance Your World show. I'm your host, Chris Alba. Um, Thank you for joining in for today's episode of the Spiritual Journey of You, Me, and We. And I look forward to sharing some content with you today. I will be authentically open and honest. I had a very powerful sweat this morning and I'm still processing some really deep emotions. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen today, but part of being authentic is showing up, and then being vulnerable is sharing what's going on the inside of us. And Over the last week, with this full moon, a lot of things have been releasing and coming up and processing some deep stuff. So very grateful for those opportunities because I understand that part of the experience that we're here to have is duality between the polarities of pleasure and pain, and how we experience that is how we define it through our um, mental, emotional, and actual physical language, right? And that creates our concept. A lot of our spiritual practices, deep ceremonies, plant ceremonies, those types of things, allow us to experience deeper states of ourselves in a safe container. And so that gives us a better um, awareness, if you will. And when you realize that, part of the strength of our love is that we care for ourselves, we care for each other, we care for the planet. How? That's our individual expression. And it's been in my experience that throughout my life I've always just wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be of service, I wanted to be helpful, I wanted to be kind, I wanted to be loving, I wanted to be compassionate, I wanted to have fun, I wanted to experience the fullness of life. And I have in many, 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 many ways. And what a blessing. And it's also challenging, because we're here to do it together. And the it's it's one thing to be joyful within. It's another thing to be able to share that joy, right? To share those resources, to share the abundance, to share like that puts more meaning, at least for me, my experience, without the words, without the, stories of, well, I got to experience this and do this for this person. We went and did this experience and had this, did this together. And, that, like, that's what we're all here doing. The question is what does it look like, you know? And it's interesting because, most of my life, um, I didn't want to be, I wanted to be free of the man made matrix of our society, and that's kind of impossible. Um, and I've always been part of the subcultures and things like that along my ways, and learning more and more about myself and others through those relationships. And to honor the past, to me, is to remember the past and forgive for the missteps, the miscommunications, the misunderstandings, where we were trying to learn who we were and the parts that we were going to play, and what it was going to look like and what it was going to mean. And, you know, I had a deep vision in my sweat this morning, and of my dad, you know, throughout my whole life trying to condition me that it's a tough, cruel world out there and you have to protect yourself. And I've, through my experience of being reckless, in many ways, I learned where that's valid and where it's not, and where there's higher meanings. One of the greatest revelations I had when I've tried to commit suicide, is going on to the other side and coming back, and there was this sense of purpose that was far beyond anything that I could ever imagine or put words on, and still struggle to do that today as I'm growing, this ministry and organization and personal practices, and building a network of compassionate human beings that are trying to enhance our world through, heart-centered approaches, and creating that peace on earth and that sustainability on earth. When we realize that everything is our ally, it changes our world. When we see our yard as, something that we have to conquer. you know Look at how destructive we can be as human beings by throwing pesticides and insecticides and, artificial fertilizers and that type of thing, so we can sit back and say, look at what we did. um, and that's just one way. And I met this elder who gave me a spirit name that I didn't like. And I've battled with it back and forth, trying to embrace it and trying to release it, because I know it's just an identity, right? And it doesn't really mean anything if I don't give it meaning. But one of the things that he said to me, and I've shared this story in different ways, but was, who are you? What do you do? And every time that I would try to say, well, here's the ways that I serve, others in a commercial way, or here's how I serve, he would say, no, you haven't found it yet. You haven't found it yet. Dig deeper, dig deeper, dig deeper. And it's really hit me over the last few days, because I finally let go of, having to struggle, in ways that I thought I had to prove that I was serious about what I was doing with my life. And I've gone through those struggles. I've lived since 2017 on donations, until I started working side jobs, side gigs, and those types of things to help, make it easier for me to move in our commercial world, our commercial society of exchange. And it's been good, and now I'm currently delivering packages, for an affiliate of Amazon. And, it's pretty rewarding in weird ways. When last night, for example, before I was done with my shift, I got this notification of all the, positive feedback that I got, by being me, just doing this job and doing it in the best way that I can by being the best version of myself. And that's what I really want to talk about with this show, is when we look at the separation, the egoic identity, of you and me. There is there can be a restriction of energy, which feels like some form of resistance based on our mental construct of where we've been. And again, honoring our past is realizing that all of that stuff had to happen the way it did to help shape us into being who we are, not who we believe we are, not who we feel we are. And I think that's part of the challenge that we have with a lot of the spiritual practices and things like that, and the healing modalities and things like that, is, and also part of the benefit of it, because we realize that we're energy, we're always moving, and we're going to have high moments and we're going to have low moments, and all those moments are just as sacred and just as beautiful and just as meaningful. And when we stop running away from things, when we start accepting it at face value of that was energy, that hurt, I broke my back, fractured my back, for example, and they told me that I was going to have pain for the rest of my life. They were wrong. Why? I don't know. If I had to put anything onto it, I would have to say it was because I learned energy healing and meditation, and breath work, and learned how to move the stagnant energy in my body, so I don't have those residual issues anymore. But I also have learned from my past that when you share only the good, pleasurable, it's going to be so awesome when we reach this peak, this pinnacle, this dream, this vision, that you tend to attract a lot of people that are looking for similar things. But it's through our experience that we find the depth of our connections, the depth of the connection with ourselves, and the depth of connections with other people. And it's way easier to let go of or gain distance from people who are going through challenging experiences. But if we were to mirror that and reflect on that and ask, when you were in a challenging time in your life, was there somebody there, even if it was a stranger, that showed you kindness, the generosity, compassion, understanding, a friendly smile, a compliment? And whatever that little gift was, even though it was maybe an invisible gift, it meant something to you in that moment. And that can be for the pleasure and for the pain process, because once we realize that the pain is there to teach us how to find acceptance and gratitude for the whole experience of life, we don't have to run from it anymore, and we get to show up authentically with all the hopes, dreams, desires, emotions, thoughts, feelings, all of it. Knowing that when we misbehave, we hurt ourselves and other people. It's not an intentional thing most of the time. And it's because we were coming from a state of thinking it was the best thing to happen in that moment. And then how we stay attached to that continues our reality, right? So, friendships and relationships that have gone the distance have gone through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of challenges. The realization of it is they weren't willing to give up. Maybe they needed to give each other space. Maybe they needed to see from a different perspective. Maybe they needed time. Whatever the mental thing is to say, here's the puzzle piece that made this thing work. That's part of the delusion of our mind. Because then we're trying to recreate all those things. And it's like transactional, and that's not how life works. We're all flowing through this river of consciousness through the cosmos as we speak, whether we realize it or in physical senses, or have the awareness that it's happening in our mental in the mental realms. That's really the only thing that defines our reality. And so the question, the journey is, where do we grow from here? Where do we have the safe space to come together and share our thoughts and share our feelings and share our upsets and our misfortunes, and and at the same time realize that we're only sharing it so we can gain a level of acceptance that it happened, so we can move on from it and not recreate it anymore. See, if you're looking for people, this has been my experience, if you're looking for people to give up on you, because this has been my experience, that a lot of people don't see my worth until I'm out of their life. And then we usually reconnect and we have these deep, meaningful relationships. They're not everyday relationships that, but at the same time, there's deep love and concern and care for one another, and a lot of grace and a lot of understanding in those relationships. And I absolutely adore that. I'm so grateful for the ones that show up in my life. I'm so grateful for the ones that aren't right now, because that's part of the process. That's part of the understanding. It's part of the growth, right? Is everybody's doing the best they know how to do. The question is how do we come together to create a better outcome? Because it's all energy. If we put more batteries together, it's more powerful. It's the same thing with our mind, heart, and our physical bodies. That's why in the ancient times, it was about the lands that people controlled and how many people lived on those lands. Because if there was a war, then you had people to fight it. But back then we didn't have the things that we have today to help extend human life. So now we have to be more mindful about how we create and procreate and how we do the things that we do. But everything is our ally until we don't value it. One of the big debates in the spiritual community is, should you be vegan or vegetarian, or should you eat meat, or this, that, or the other? And there's traditions of both things. And the thing that I want to say is that depends on how you think and feel at that time. And you can shift from that if you choose to. Or like a lot of people that went vegan, they found out that it's really hard to get all the nutrients and things, and their body started showing signs of different diseases, and so they went back to eating more, some meat maybe, but a cleaner source of it, ones that are cared for more, those that are part of nature and not part of the commercial process that we have our control over. But it depends on your thoughts and your feelings. And, I learned this from one of my Cherokee teachers. It's all life. So why is some life more sacred than other lives? If we're going to get back to source, if we're going to get back to unconditional love, if we're going to get back to oneness and neutral, equity and a neutral state of societal norms, we have to understand that everything is just as sacred as everything else. It's the meaning and the purpose that we each have that kind of creates a hierarchy of something matters more than another. Truth is, and as far as our humanity is concerned, our children are more important than the elderly when it comes to the physical reality of life, because of the physicality of life. However, our elders hold knowledge and wisdom that the youth don't have because they haven't had the experiences yet. So everybody has value. It's just, where are they in our lives? You know, I used to consider myself a hopeless romantic. Now I consider myself a hopeful romantic, because I've seen how people can come together through adversity in my own life. And really be able to connect on deep levels. I mean, I've shared, stories about how I, used to walk with the anti-racist Nazis, and how the violence. And it wasn't until I sat down with another or a Nazi, and actually had a heart-to-heart conversation with them, that we actually got to see each other from our own points of view and our own perspectives, our shared points of view, and actually come into an understanding of why we were where we were in life, and really where we wanted to grow from there. And that's the question of we, right? We are all part of humanity. What part do we want to play? What roles do we want to play? Whether you want to believe in spiritual texts or religions or science, or the wisest of us all want to observe all sides of the human experience. It gives us a more rounded point of view. So I try not to eliminate any perspective. I just have to ask myself, why does this matter, and how is this relevant, and how do I want to respond because of it? And that's our responsibility, I believe, as individuals, and as in our relationships. And the greatest lessons that I have had came through painful experiences, because it woke me up to my delusion of not taking responsibility for my effect in life. And luckily for me, I I survived it all. And now I can sit with other people that have gone through drug addictions, that have worked the streets, that have done some not socially acceptable things, with all the love and compassion in my heart, because I know I did it for the best of the reasons, because I thought that was my way out of whatever circumstance I was in, that I was experiencing the present moment suffering that I was running away from. When I stopped running, the suffering caught up with me, and then I served it tea, as they would say. And I befriended it. Yesterday I was delivering a package, and this dog comes out of nowhere, really aggressively. And I, of course, was not wanting to turn my back on it, but I did notice that it had a shot collar, or a privacy fence collar on. So I just kept going backwards until I was out of the yard to see where that boundary was of that dog. And once I was safe, I contacted the owner. She wasn't available to take my call, but we talked through text message. And she had stated that, I had let her know that her dog was out, and it wasn't letting me get close to the house. And she said, just leave it in the yard, that's fine. And But by the time she had texted me that, I had already calmed down, befriended the dog, and got and delivered the package. And I did it through my energy, shifting my energy from one of fear, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get bit, to you're a friendly dog. And I started talking to it friendly, and got down towards its level again through the distance of the privacy fence, because it wasn't trying to push through the fence, and waited for it to get comfortable with me. It took a few minutes, but it was important for me, and it's important for me to do things like that. Um, one, from myself, because I don't want to have the fear, even though the reaction is normal, and to get me to safety. I don't want to be afraid of things. I want to keep myself safe, of course, but I don't want to be in fear. And so all these experiences that I get to have each and every day, mentally and emotionally, and in our physical reality, help me heal that fear within me, through love and acceptance. Of in the beginning, I talked about when I committed suicide, when I realized that I was going back to where I came from, and I was okay with it. I surrendered this physical life. I didn't want to experience the pain. I didn't want to experience hurting people, either. I didn't want to do it. And I remember laying down and bleeding all over the place and being totally okay with it. And what I wasn't okay with, though, and this is where they would say that probably I didn't want to die, was I reached out to my girlfriend, who ended up being now it's my son's mom, and we're no longer in a marriage anymore, but we still have a relationship because we have our child together, and we work real hard to make that the best we can. But anyway, I remember reaching out to her, and she said it was the way I said goodbye, that alerted her to what I had done, because I didn't talk to her about any of that stuff. I just called really to say goodnight and say goodbye, because I didn't think that I was gonna survive what I had just done. And if it wasn't for her feeling that in my voice and hearing that in my voice and coming over, I probably wouldn't be here today. And that's part of the spiritual journey, in my belief, is that unknown knowingness, that intuition, that I don't know why I need to do this, but I need to do it. But I need to do it in a good way. Because we'll never war ourselves to peace. Violence only creates more violence, no matter how righteous we believe it is. And it's through our individual practices that I've been having faith that will change the collective. Because anyone that has tried to change the collective in a radical way has become a tyrant in another way. Extreme in one way. And it's through our collective, through our variations, through our differences, that makes us strong, makes us wise, makes us see things that we didn't see. And that's why our relationships are so valuable to us. That's why in business They teach us that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so the question is, if you spend the most time with yourself, who are you? Who are you truly? I was sharing with a friend earlier that, you know, in isolation, it's a good thing because you can be yourself without the judgments of other people. You can allow the feelings to come up, the anger, the shame, the fear, the sadness, the tears. You can be messy. You can purge. You can, do all the things, right? And why it's important to have a safe container when you're doing plant medicine is because you need to be able to have those experiences without bringing more up. You can have it, but you don't need it served to you later. And that's why I, I try not to talk too much about the ceremonies and experiences because those are sacred in a way. I do want to share, take some of the mystery out of it, but at the same time, I want to honor the experiences that I've had and the experiences other people have because they're all unique and special. And I don't, I was talking to some people at Amazon yesterday, and even though that I intentionally went in there and not, I didn't hide what I do or, my practices or anything like that. But at the same time, I wasn't sharing them or broadcasting them. But since I've been there for a little while, people are starting to hear some things. And, of course, I was sharing about Colombia to the owner of the company, and some people heard about some things and were asking questions, and we were talking about different protocols and different methods and different medicines and different things like that, both synthetic and naturally occurring. And it is my view that anything artificial isn't sustainable. Even the plant medicine, depending on the type, you don't need to do a bunch. You only need to do it maybe once if you're with the right practitioner, with the right maestro, or with the right medicine person, or anything like that, because it will reveal everything that you need to know in that experience if you give it enough time to integrate. And that's the thing that I see that we have a challenge with, is allowing things to naturally unfold as they need to happen, applying our energy in the best ways we can. And sometimes that means not do anything, but sit and feel it. Feel the resistance. Feel the fear. And then when you're ready, go do it. I was talking to my son the other day about going ziplining. And when we went and did it, he was just like, he was really scared and nervous. And then he was like, but then I realized, that fear and that concern about me falling went away real fast because the experience was fast. So, within a short period of time, like, you went through it, and then it became just a fun experience. And now he can look back on that, months later, and was like, wow, that was a lot of fun. And, and I asked him, would you want to do that again? And he's like, absolutely, just maybe not in that same place again, because I would want to have a different experience than trying to match that one. And that was a really wonderful experience for me as a dad to hear. Is that, through that experience that he learned that, it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to have concern. It helps you be mindful, helps you make sure that, you're paying attention, but at the same time, not to allow those emotions to stop us from doing what it is that we want to do or need to do, for whatever reason that we're doing it, for ourselves, other people, for the planet, you know, um, whatever it is, it's our choice and our radical responsibility, as Larkin used to say, to be the best version of ourselves. And it's in my view that that's not by um, discounting or projecting or devaluing how someone else chooses to live, because without them, you wouldn't have that realization that you didn't want to be that way. And you'd have to have that personal experience to realize that. It's been in my experience that when you're the one doing what you want and you didn't get caught for it, or you didn't have to deal with the consequences of it, you didn't really think much about it other than how awesome it was. But, and the example that I could use is, when I was a youth and, my parents gave me the things that I absolutely needed, not wanted. And they didn't really understand my creative nature and desire to create. And so I never had, crafts and hobby stuff. Like I never got, those types of things growing up. And so in my teenage years, I would steal them, so I could have the supplies to do the things that I wanted to do. And I never thought much of it because I was stealing from companies, and it's like, oh, they have insurance. And I was talking to my grandfather once about all that, and he said, the reason that prices go up a lot is because of that, because of the shrink, the things that get damaged, the things that get stolen. So it's really not a victimless crime. And so think about that. He didn't shame me. He didn't tell me I was wrong. He just gave me another perspective to look at. And that was the wisdom of my grandparents. The amount of love that my grandparents had, absolutely amazing. But I didn't feel accepted because I was trying to figure my way through life. And now it's through the later years that I get to reflect on the wisdom that they shared with me while they were alive, and how I can integrate that into my everyday. And that's part of, I think, our spiritual journey. I mean, because it's spirit, mind, body, right? I mean, that's the trifecta. That's the Holy Trinity. That's the, all the different things. However you want to look at it. And there's all these beautiful stories and teachings and practices and all these different ways to walk as a human being that we've recorded through our times. The question is who are we being now? Towards each other, towards ourselves. And are we willing to put the energy into overcoming that through the ways we continue to grow together? Mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, sexually, socially, culturally, however you want to look at it. Stop looking at yourself as a hero. Stop looking at yourself as a victim. Look at yourself as a human being, just like everybody else. That's human. And then part of the spiritual journey is realizing that every breath, everything, every non-thing is just as sacred and special as everything else. And that stops the resistance of energy. when you realize that sadness is just is glorifying and such a valuable emotion to have just as much as happiness, then all of a sudden our life becomes fulfilled in ways that we can't even fathom and imagine. And what a wonderful experience that it is to wake up each day and say, how can I make this the best day? Because this is the only day that I have. Because tonight, the day goes away, the sun goes down, goes to sleep, we go to sleep, and we start a new day. Renewed, rejuvenated, refreshed, hopefully. But so many of us stop living our dreams and believing in our dreams and started believing in other people's reality, and that created a separation and resistance within our experience. And that's one of the greatest experiences that I've had over the last few years, is I've done some things that I would have normally never done, which actually are more supportive of what everybody else considers normal. That was unnormal for me. And I found acceptance, peace, joy, and happiness within that too. So, oh my goodness, look at this. You know, when I went through boot camp and my drill sergeant threw my mask across the gas chamber, so I had to breathe the gas in the whole time I was in there, coughing and choking and having a rough way. And of course, then when I went outside, then the air hit, and I had another rough way, because that's the way that tear gas works. And but 20 minutes later, I'm smiling and laughing to the point that why I had to do push-ups, because the drill instructor got upset because I was smiling and having a good day, and he had it out for me because I wasn't supposed to be there, and he knew it, and I knew it, but I was there because I was trying to live what I thought was the responsible way. And I was told I didn't have direction, and that would give me direction, and what it did, it helped me develop the awareness of how powerful habits are and repetition, and what it means to be a team and a unit, and to let go of your own stuff for the greater good of the whole. So I'm very grateful for that experience, and I'm grateful that I didn't have to experience any more than what I did, because that was all I was designed to have. That was the way it worked. And it's a beautiful level of acceptance, and that's what I'm hoping that all of you are tuning into, that are checking out the show and the rebroadcasts and all that kind of stuff. My purpose and vision is to hold safe space, not only for myself, for other people. That's why I created a free online community on enhancingyourworld.com. It's why I went into coaching and healing in the ways that I did. I wanted to sustain myself financially, but it was never about me only having a few clients and making millions of dollars a year so I could just live this, crazy existence, why other people suffer. Because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to experience all of it. And I've gotten to suffer. I've gotten to experience what it's like to go hungry and not to have enough resources. And I've also had the opposite, where I had so much that I wasted it, squandered it, didn't appreciate it. because I was just making so much that it's like, oh, there's going to be more. It's all energy. And I really am grateful for all those experiences that I've had. And I practice that every day, trying to feel into that. And when the challenging times come, you know, you can even be thankful that this too shall pass. It might hurt, but on the other side of that hurt will be a healing that you don't understand. A friend of mine reached out. He's in South America right now, doing ceremonies, and he was talking about, you know, how hard it's been. And he said they don't play around down here. And I said, yeah, I don't know if it's because they don't understand the depths of our cultural conditioning and how much work we actually have to do to clear all that generational stuff, because we didn't live as pure as they did, as close to the land as they did, and so, you know, we have some stuff to let go of. And I said, so I don't know if it's a lack of awareness or the awareness that no matter what happens, you're going to be fine on the other side. You're going to actually be better off than you were when you started. And that's the beauty of a lot of, and I can't speak on all of it as an expert, but a lot of natural remedies and medicines. Yes, there are things out in nature that, you know, one slip up, one thing, and it will absolutely kill you, like arsenic or something. But for the majority of it, you're going to be okay. You might get sick. But that was a cleansing of something. And luckily for us, we have a lot of wisdom over the thousands of years to be able to identify what's beneficial for us and what's not. I just don't understand, for me personally, in this communication thing, why some have to be more than others, and why we can't come from a place of oneness. You know, I understand people don't want to give up the things that help them cope and help them stay in the relationships and of their life, because it's really painful to go through those tower moments, as some people would say, where all the things that you thought were part of your reality aren't anymore, because things shifted. But now that they've shifted, how are you going to be? How are you going to show up? How are you going to be more loving, compassionate, understanding, committed? You know, that's been a hard lesson for me. Not everybody has the same level of commitment. And that's okay. It's good to know. You know, and I hope we all find the relationships that see our worth from day one, you know, and not question those, whether we're going through a high moment or a low moment. They see our value and our worth and can identify that it's worth to go through the growing pains, and the healing journey, within a relationship. Sometimes you have to get some space and some distance, you know. Those of us that have made those mistakes sometimes of oversharing or being too much for somebody to handle, right? Because they react, and then that creates additional stuff that we get to work through. Where we start to learn, like, okay, well, how am I showing up? You know, it's okay if I'm having a challenging day. I don't have to go emotionally or verbally vomit over everybody and tell them how bad my day's been or how tough my life's been, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. If they want to know, they'll ask, or it will become relevant in our conversations. Otherwise, at this time, it doesn't matter. And maybe I'm off. I don't know. That's just where I'm currently at in this realm of consciousness on, you know, December 18th of 2024, with the hopes, desires, and humility to say, I found out and I fucked around. And I agree for the people that I've hurt. And I ask for their forgiveness. But I also have the power to forgive myself, because I know I wasn't being malicious. It was in the best of intentions. It was to try to figure things out. And in my past, sometimes, you know, I wanted to push faster than reality was wanting to be pushed. There was times where I was still too long. So things passed me by. All of it's helped me to get here. And what's it worth? I don't know. Because there's not a monetary value on it. That's the problem that I've always had about charging for services. There's not enough money in the world to put a value on a human experience or a relationship. I don't know if you've ever had that experience or not. Those priceless moments, right? And when we choose to be mindful of them, every moment is priceless. Every one of them is important. And who we share that with, how we share them with, why we share in the first place, all those different things is the dynamic of our human experience, right? And I just want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be in harmonious relationships. Why? Because I want to too. How am I going to live that way if you're not living that way? And how can you live that way if I'm not living that way? It's the cosmic commitment to one another. It's the unity mindset. Of, you know, how, and this might come off in a dark way, but how sociopathic do we have to be to continue to tell ourselves that we're happy, that we're joyous, that it only matters about us while other people are suffering? Is it true that we can't control other people? Absolutely. Is it true that we can only master our own energy? Absolutely. But the pain wakes us up to the love that we truly are. And once we stop fighting each other over what's the right or wrong way to create the happy, healthy, and harmonious lifestyle that we all desire, including the plant and animal allies, our natural resources, because without them, the existence on life will be impossible or unbearable. It's time to wake up to the true potential of what we can be. And I'm grateful to be here. And the call to action is come join us. And we have a free online community. It's like social media platform there on the enhancingyourworld.com, so we can have conversations and share inspirational stories and insights and things like that. It's a safe place. I also learn about all of our services and our events and workshops and things like that on there as well, plus a plethora of information to help you point yourself in the direction that you authentically want to go, because something resonates deep within you beyond the logic and reasoning of the mind. And so keep going deeper. If you think you got it figured out, you're not there yet. So welcome to the great mystery of life. But thank you again for tuning in to the show. Thank you for sharing and continuing to allow me the opportunity to be me in these ways. I'm super grateful. I look forward to joining those people that choose to join us in this vision of creating a happy and healthy and harmonious lifestyle. Thanks, Rhonda. Rhonda stated. Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for tuning in. You too, Amy and Rhonda. And I look forward to catching up with everybody soon. And until next week, much love and gratitude for everything you are, everything you do, and everything you choose to be. The world wouldn't be the same without you. And so let's go make our difference. Much love.